the special town board meeting for the town of East Troy. It's Monday, April 4th at 4:30 p.m. Show the full board is in attendance. And we'll do a roll call. Klarkowski here.
Wales here.
Kesselheim here.
Rance here. Church here.
Kim, are all our postings in order for tonight's meeting? Okay. All right, first item on the agenda is resolution 2022-05, adopting a revised board plan. Give us a little background on that, if you could.
This change, the original board plan was adopted in the fall, but due to the recent Supreme Court justice, ruling, they changed the congressional districts. So we had to change our board plan, because we will have congressional districts 1 and 5. So, Dale from the county created Ward 7, and the census tracts are on the 3rd page of the resolution. Everybody had access to that. So, the only changes, yeah. So, and this may not be our final plan yet, because of, they still haven't decided on the assembly and the senate. So,
All right, so does it have to be, it has to be adopted today or this week? We got a notice to the county?
it has to be adopted today, cause it has to be sent to the county, so Dale can submit it to the state by Sunday the 10th. So it has to be the county this week.
Okay.
And, Brent, do we know, like, if there were a lot of people impacted, this is
No.
new?
This is the new map, and the only change is if you look down here, where it says East T7, that's the new ward that was created.
The Burlington School District.
It's Burlington area, because we have Burlington addresses in the town,
Okay.
but they will be in Assembly District 5, I believe. Or not Assembly, Congressional District 5. So that's what that is.
Okay.
So that's over by me. Is it on the other side of town?
It's on the other side,
Way south,
right south.
south of Miller Road,
Because you can see where Hill Valley is,
south of Honey Creek.
There's Miller, okay.
yeah.
And then Honey Creek is below that.
So maybe that one corner.
Honey Creek Road is nothing below Honey Creek.
So,
Okay, you wanna read it?
as long as they don't have to
No.
census blocks.
Census block.
Okay, resolution 2021-09, resolution adopting revised wards. Whereas all cities, villages, and towns with a population of 1,000 or more must establish municipal wards based on the results of their decennial federal census of population as required by state statute 5.15 of Wisconsin statute. And whereas each county board must adopt and transfer to each municipal governing board or governing body in the county a tentative county supervisory district plan, dividing the county into districts and designating the approximate location and population of each ward proposed to effectuate the division of the county into districts as required in statutes 59.10 sub 3 sub B. And whereas all cities, villages, and towns will subsequently make adjustments if necessary to their ward boundaries based on the requirements in Wisconsin statutes 5.15 sub 2 sub B 4. And whereas these laws require the governing body of each municipality within 60 days upon receipt of the adopted tentative supervisory district plan to create election wards or adjust existing ward lines to accommodate the creation of supervisory districts which govern each ward accordingly by consecutive whole number, beginning with the number 1 through adoption of a resolution. And whereas municipalities must report the establishment or adjustment of ward lines to the county clerk within 5 days of passing said resolution, and the Wisconsin State Legislative Reference Bureau, with a population of over 10,000, and whereas Waller County has provided the town of East Troy a tentative county supervisory district plan subsequent to the 2020 decennial federal census completion encompassing the entire geographical area of the town of East Troy. And whereas the total population of the town of East Troy, County of Waller, State of Wisconsin, as determined by the 2020 federal decennial census is 3,992. Now therefore be it hereby hereby resolved that the town board of the town of East Troy, pursuant to statute 5.15, adjusts those existing ward lines within the town of East Troy and adopts the wards as described as follows on the following pages and illustrated on the accompanying map.
Could you just read the population of each word?
Well, I don't have a population of 7.
Okay,
That's really not.
okay.
And be it hereby further resolved, the wards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, created above are hereby combined for voting purposes, sharing a common polling place of the town hall of the town of East Troy at N 9330 Stewart School Road, and also be it hereby further resolved, this resolution will take effect upon the passage and shall supersede any previously established wards within the town of East Troy, County of Delaware, State of Wisconsin. These words hereby created in this resolution become effective for elections held after April 4th, 2022, provided however that implementation of this resolution is contingent upon approval by the Water County Board of Supervisors of a county-wide supervisory district plan based on the foregoing election wards. This is a resolution adopted, approved, and recorded on this 4th day of April 2022.
Do we want it to be effective before tomorrow sometime?
It has
Doesn't
no
matter.
bearing, because tomorrow is a local and county
Right.
offices, this is
So tomorrow, there won't be people having to say that I'm in Ward 7.
not at all. No, tomorrow's more about school districts
Right.
than Washworth.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I move we approve resolution 2021-09.
It should be 22, sorry.
Should be 2022-05.
I modified it.
2022.
I withdraw my motion.
-05.
I would like to move that we approve resolution 2022-05, resolution adopting revised wards.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Pete, second. Discussion? Any more questions on this?
Do we know who serves the congressional district in Ward 7?
No,
Okay.
I know Brian Style
Yes.
is one, but I don't know who.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, I signed it. All right, next, item on the agenda, preliminary police garage plans. Back when, the town hall got approved and then disapproved, a list of items were made called town hall improvements that have been on the agenda for every meeting since then, basically. And two of the items are left to be done. There's really three. One of them, we're gonna be opening bids for the furnace and AC units Monday, I believe, correct? And what's left, we listed in 2022, police department, there's, security and safety, 35,000, and convert cold to warm storage, for the DPW. Both of those items are still on here, as part of the funds, set aside for it. However, when it became known that this, I'll let Todd kind of explain that part, because what happened is back in December of last year, the police department and the Department of Public Works did a little brainstorming, and they came up with an idea on their own that said, instead of spending that 100 on those two factors, why don't you just build a police garage here, and then the cold storage, can stay cold storage, and the warm storage is where the police cars are now. So that's how it came to be, but we're basically, our hands are tied to do anything about it since then, because the only way this can go forward is, for the electors at the annual meeting to vote on it. So, back on that, Todd, how did you come up with, who you asked for some rough estimates?
Well, I just contacted some garage builders, I I mean, no, I didn't know, the only one that I knew for sure was Taylor. This American Classic, I was just from word of mouth from other people. Cause the cost to convert our cold storage would have been about $90,000. 30 of it was in concrete alone, and then insulation, heating, electric, trying to put a drain system in, and tying everything in. And I'm like, well, it kinda solves a little bit of our problem, cause right now, I take anybody out there, you can't walk from one end of our shop to the other without walking over equipment. It's that tight in there. So that's why we're gonna, it was brought up quite a few years ago to see what it would cost. So I'm like, it's really not gonna gain what we really need it to do. So I'm like, a normal garage isn't all that expensive, so the money that would cost to do that, say we build a new one for the police garage and we just take theirs over, it's already done. So the money that's set aside for us to put heat and all that in cold storage, we'll give to funding a new garage and give them more room. We'll get our building inspector out of here, he'd have his own office, our clerk of courts up in there that shares a room with the judge. She'd be back here, a little more secure. Just, it seemed more sense than spending that amount of money on that small space and not really gaining what we wanted. The overall outcome to do is that much more room for us.
This kills more birds with one stone,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yep, so when I reached out, all my years in the trades before I started here, they had garages they're called room in the attic trusses, so you could actually have rooms up there. So they would give them guys rooms for offices, storage, evidence room, I mean, just, it would free up a lot more room in the town hall for town hall stuff, and it's not really a standalone police department, but it's their garage, they could have offices and be kinda on their own.
Okay, now one thing that did happen on that, it kept growing the more questions you asked, and one of the biggest stumbling blocks is in order to get a ceiling in there, could not really find any engineer that would put his stamp on to say you can suspend the ceiling in here and electrical and, you know, all this stuff.
In our cold
In
storage.
the old cold storage place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so that's why that price kind of grown on that one a little bit.
yeah.
The safety and security stayed in that 30-35 range since inception, which was a year and a half ago. So that's where we're at, and why it's on the agenda is, Jack mentioned at the last meeting, hey, we should have a discussion on
Well,
this.
it was a discussion between all of us, and I actually originally asked the question because of all the improvements we've done on this building, we're obviously not going that route. I said, has anyone ever thought about, and that was during our budget time that was brought up, and that's when Todd brought that you guys had been doing some brainstorming. But one thing I didn't realize, we're not voting on this at the annual meeting, whether we're doing this or not. It was, what I was understanding when we talked last month, it was we were gonna have a discussion to try to inform everybody, try to get some feedback, you know, really make this known so that nobody, you know, we're not getting accused, or we're not, you know, everybody can understand what's going on. That's what I was under the understanding of at the annual meeting.
Okay.
It was gonna be a discussion.
And I do believe, being at the annual meeting, it's the electors meeting, so they can go either way. They can authorize it, or they can say, do this or do that, or do it up to this month. That's up to the electors. That's why we really didn't do anything on this since we got the numbers from Todd.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be noticed as authorized, but if nobody, you know, authorizes it, it's gonna be more of a discussion of, well, what are the next steps then? You know, because we cannot build a town building without the elected approval.
Yeah, but how do you authorize something you don't know what it is?
No public comments.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, what I've said since I asked that question, is I just wanna make sure that everybody's informed on what we have going on here. You know, this stuff that we have here is by no means a final product. It hasn't cost anybody any money. It's just something looking into to come up with ideas to bring forth,
Yeah, and that may
to
be
people
how,
of the community as well. And that's what I didn't think we were gonna vote on anything. I thought we were being informed. I thought we were gonna try to get something set up, maybe in a meeting in the very near future, that we can really advertise it out there in the newspaper to make people aware of it. They can come in, ask questions, and just really try to keep all the community involved as much as possible, you know, because nobody knows how many people are coming to the annual meeting. You don't want it to be all of a sudden, you know, someone says, yeah, and then it gets passed, and then here we sit again, and, you know, and the community is upset, so.
yeah, and it is a balancing deal, because we can't do any more detail or flesh this out or talk to architect, get into any of that until you're authorized. And that authorization could be two different ways. One could say do it, one could say no, do this and this. And how would it be, because we already had a needs assessment that was done for the original town hall, okay? We have a budget that we know roughly what it's gonna be, but we were to say right now the number, yeah, it'd be, what,
Cause I don't think there's electrical in.
No, it's not,
in
it's
here,
it's
there's
unfinished.
not-
It's
very
Yeah, it's.
This
It
is
was,
a
it
raw.
was just a rough guess to see the cost of what a new garage would cost versus what it was costing us to
do
convert
the,
our.
And what you're saying, Todd, is to try to utilize those funds that have already been approved towards something like that, and it would be more efficient, more effective for the town as a whole. I mean, the town
Overall, yes,
hall. You know,
overall.
moving people around, Vince, you know, it makes sense to me, but I definitely think that we absolutely have to make sure we're trying to inform, community.
yeah.
The
So-
other thing that has changed
Mhm.
since we went and got these quotes is we have learned that the chief will not be renewing his contract at the end of the year.
Correct.
So we have potentially, a change in chief, looking to see what people are available. But then before spending this kind of money, I think we should do the due diligence to just look into the joint police department between the town and the village. I think it's a good time before we spend $200,000, before we hire another person. It doesn't mean that we're gonna do that, go joint, but at least do the due diligence and speak with data.
Fourth time since I've been here.
But when you say the fourth time, like the documents that Joe sent us from 2014, all it says
That was at
is,
Detroit, that one, yeah. Yeah.
It's not speaking with data. It says, well, the village is busier, so the police force will be focused in the village and the town will be get less coverage, and it's better to manage our own money. That, to me, that's not speaking with data. Do a full study of how many officers.
The full
But
study,
then it costs money.
yeah, the full study was
Well,
done,
um,
the full study was done with the consolidation, before we had bond agreement with McWiley, that was like 16 years ago. And then 6 years ago, before Chief Sturgis retired, we directed him to do a complete in-depth study and say, go, meet with the village, meet with the surrounding communities, and he had nothing to lose or gain. He was gonna be done in a couple of months, and he came back and said, there's no advantage to the town, don't do it. That was his recommendation. So, there was, at least 4 times, okay? If the electors say, do another one, yeah, it's gonna cost money. It could be
Or it
done.
could be a committee, right?
Oh, it could-
Representative from the town board and the village board and the town community and the village community and the
Sure,
chief.
yep. we did one.
Kind of like we did the ad hoc communications. Like you said, from the previous studies, I think it shows us what things we need to look at, staffing and vehicles and,
Coverage, I mean,
right.
there's water here where there isn't in
Yeah.
other municipalities.
Like-
But then there's more people to back each other up and.
You also have to look at the money that would be, it would cost us money to go with Waller County for coverage. And we have a certain amount of money budgeted from the police department in our general funds, and that's something that,
This year.
For 2022,
Yes,
right.
correct.
So that's why now's the time to do the study before our budget for 2023. And again, it may result in continuing with our own department, but before we extend an offer or spend 100,000 plus, I think we should have some data.
Okay.
I agree with Michelle, as further study, but we still have to also alleviate, Todd Shield's issue with his lack of, space. I mean, he's just trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as it
Yeah, I thought that was pretty.
That was
good.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying to move, I'm just saying further study, just look into it in more depth. But we're consolidating the police departments at this time seems like that's a separate argument or a separate conversation in a sense. And we still have to address Todd's issue.
And that's still there.
That's fine.
I mean,
But then it
But
depends on what we
to
do.
let it be known that it's, like, I think what Michelle's saying is that we might not change anything, we might just go straight forward to doing that, but if we try to do, I've said at the beginning since I got on the board is, everything is able to be looked into. No matter what is going on in the town, everything is able to be looked into, and I think it's, when you say due diligence, there has been questions out in the community, there's been people, talking about it. If we do it and we don't have a change and it's not saving anything and it's not gonna make a difference, so be it, But I think you're right with the timing for, a couple $100,000 on a building and, contracting and, again, maybe it won't happen at all, but if it's something we could look into, I think now is a good time to do that.
And we put a timeline, we have to make a decision by June 15th, so we can post by July 1st, or, and we have to have volunteers and people to commit to this study.
Agreed. And, like I said, the studies are all out there. The big one, consolidation, that was in depth. The one the chief did, he gave a written report on it and said, it's gonna cost you more money, and you get less service.
So can I get a copy of that from Kim? You found that somewhere?
That would be the
That
chief's.
chief service?
I don't have that, I don't have any sort of chief search. Never did.
Well, he did bring it to a meeting, so. He did.
I never did.
In the minutes, the notes?
He came to a.
Minutes?
Yeah, he submitted at a monthly meeting. Yeah, I found it when I was going through all the old records.
Well, it never
Was
came
that-
to the clerk's office.
That could be, he could have given a
Because
report.
he never gave me a monthly report
No.
otherwise, so never.
Okay, I'll write that down. Chief Surgeons. That was the last one. And it said,
January 2015?
Chief, when did you start?
She said January 1, 2017.
17, so this would have been late 16.
Yeah, because again, January 2015 was just, Chairman Klepkowski and Chief Sturgis attended a meeting with the village president, Randy Timmons, and Chief Alan Boyce, and,
Would you have done
January of 2015.
it? Yeah, that would have been the first time, when we were, working pretty close with the village. Actually, since then, we have been, but especially since Scott Seaver, right? So, okay, so, I just wanna get on the record of what, Todd got from these contractors. American Garage Builders was roughly 125. Taylor was roughly 94. Classic Builders, 96.
No, just those.
That's those three. And again, that doesn't include finishing out the.
No.
Right,
That's your own.
that's your building and your concrete, right, is
Concrete walls,
basically
rough
Yeah.
windows, doors.
some underfloor plumbing, I think was under, but no electric, no drywall, insulation,
Right.
anything
It's
like that.
basically rough construction with a finished upper floor.
The big, yeah, the one for 125 was a good. Okay. So, that's why we brought up today, and I hear that it sounds like some people want comments, so I think if we wanna get comments on that, we'd have to put that on next Monday's meeting. You think we should discuss it some more at that meeting?
I don't think I think that if people, and I'd love it for people to come, to come to the meeting and have conversations and put out their opinions and put out their thoughts for us, because, not coming doesn't help us, so.
Agreed.
And I'd rather hear it on Monday if we have our special board meeting with the 19th. So,
That's not
annual
really-
meeting.
or the annual meeting is, the annual meeting is the 19th, if we can get some more input on
Okay.
what people are thinking, if everyone word of mouth, put it out.
Yeah, and if it's more
I
discussion.
don't know that any decision should be made, but in my opinion, I think
Yeah, and
there's a
that'll
lot
be,
more to go.
that'll be up to the electors, and, I will say that, how you get to that point is kinda tricky, because again, we can't spend any money on it, but fleshing it out with public opinion is a good thing. Just like when we had the open house, with the town hall, I would say, at least half, there was only 36 people that showed up, but half of them that said, too big or whatever, he said, how about an addition right there? Well, that's kind of what this is, even though it's not connected, it's kind of an addition, separate building, but.
I know a lot of people in the community from that last go around, they're not against not having anything, it was just the matter at hand at that time, so. And there's more things you can do, we get bids all the time, you can get an electrical bid, it's not gonna cost you anything. I mean, if you try to get a competitive bid, here's the size of the building, this is what we're looking for, at least get in that ballpark so we can get to a closer number.
That could occur, to get a a little bit more fleshed out number, but again, you know, it's a matter of not doing too much before you even have authorization to do it. That's kind of what we're looking for, either authorization or, marching orders, do this and that. Or commit, that's how operating is, right?
The closer you can get to a number for the community, I think there's no one's gonna, it's not gonna hurt anybody's feelings, so if it doesn't cost you for, for someone to give you a ballpark on drywall or paint or electrical or whatever we think we're gonna need, I think we should do it.
Is it something Pat should follow up with then?
I mean, there's companies out there,
Yeah. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
Electrical and drywall,
I can,
There's plumbing.
yeah, cause they'll give me a complete package where all you can do is walk in and turn a light switch on and it's
Well,
done.
yeah, that'll add to the.
I'm just thinking if we could get closer to that number, it's gonna be, it's better information for everybody. That way everybody's more informed
Yeah.
and we can, maybe it's something with everything put together here, maybe we'll move forward with it or whatever they choose.
It was more of piqued my interest to see what the cost difference would be
Sure.
and it makes more sense.
It makes sense to me, I agree with that.
Well, and I appreciate your thinking out of the box and not just going with the status quo, so I like that type.
and in case you're not at next Monday's meeting,
I will.
we forgot to tell you at the last meeting, thank you and your crew for all the stuff you did with the carpeting and moving all the office furniture and painting all the walls. It was great, so make sure you guys know.
Yep, I will.
All right, I think we're good, and you think we should discuss it again Monday, maybe make more people?
I would think so, and then try to encourage more people to come. That way they have a public comment on it.
That might be a pushing issue for Todd.
If you can't get by Monday, you certainly need it by the annual meeting.
I'll get on it.
Again, what's that?
Well, you can try, but I mean, honestly, I don't know. To me, I feel like this is all getting rushed, a lot of this is getting pushed, that's my opinion, and I don't wanna force something when we're not ready to do it, but. There's a few of these things I don't think need to be done like right now. We do need to move forward, but let's not just do it to do it, let's make sure we're getting stuff the right way. My opinion.
Okay, all right, any more comments on the garage? We're good? Okay. All right, and the last item left on the agenda, police chief advertising language, at last month's meeting, I gave everybody 2 weeks to bring in comments, I got some from Barb, got some from you, Michelle, and that you rewrote it very nice. So what I gave to, Jim Mills and to Kim, and to the chief too, I think I have a copy of minutes possibly, said, here's where we're at. And, again, the main deal is here is to get some names in the hopper here, because the more time we wait here, the more chance we have of maybe some good people just disappearing. So I think what it came down to, and you rewrote it,
I married the documents I received together and got input from you, from the chief and stuff.
okay,
The other
okay.
police officers that I know.
And you have that,